Alright, welcome everybody to my very first walking animation guide. I'm not calling it tutorial because a tutorial is, I believe, showing something completely. This is a guide. In that, I mean, this will show you how to approach doing a walking animation. It will not teach you how to do a walking animation, but how to approach it. So there's a big difference, and the reason for that is doing a walking animation is you can do tons of different walking cycles, especially to show character. So recently, this Russian Dr. Livesey from Treasure Island has been popping off on the internet, and it's a meme because how confident his walk is. Okay, so that shows character. So that's why I'm just showing you the basic, very, very basic principles of how to do a walking cycle. Okay, so you have to experiment, try different stuff out and see how it works for you. This involves timing, how to draw the character, the posture itself. But this one right here on the screen, this here is pretty much kind of like Dr. Livesey from the Russian Treasure Island animation. Okay, so as you see on the screen right now, this here is the very first frame or one of the keyframes you will use on a walking animation. Pay attention to, of course, this is just a stick figure, so you should, this is very much not rigged animation. This is drawn, hand drawn, frame by frame, animation stuff. So let me explain what's happening here. So this keyframe is one of the basic main keyframes used in walking cycles. Okay, so notice this part right here. His sole is touching the ground, which is noted B, meaning meaning the backside. So the foot that is farther from the camera. Okay, so this is just to make a note of it. Once you start, drawing the body completely like this. So this would be on the background, whereas this would be on the foreground. Okay, these are just to take notes. The same applies to the hands. Anyway, the sole touches the ground, but the toes do not on the back foot. The opposite is happening on the other foot. The toes and the midsection of his foot is also touching the ground. That's how you would basically walk. This is because this is about to lift off. It's gonna lift off, not like this, but more like it's gonna lift off like so, because it's gonna pull it inside, and he's gonna pull this foot inside, and he's gonna move it over here. Okay, so and the same can be said for the arms, except it's reverse. When you observe any person walking, you would quickly notice, even from childhood, you would notice that the let's say, okay, this is the frontal view. Okay, when this foot is forward, this arm should go backwards, and vice versa. This is to keep balance. Humans keep balance like this. So the same goes here. This is the farther foot, the background foot, let's say, and so his front arm should be going this way. Okay, it's confusing when I explain it, but observe a person walking and you'll understand what I mean. Okay, so this is the first keyframe. The next keyframe is pretty simple. You just do this in reverse, like this. See? Okay, so this is pretty much the same frame as the previous one. So we're gonna, the main goal here is to complete or fill in these two in between keyframes. And the difference is, like I said, it's just everything is just in reverse. Pay attention to the head though. Okay, so the head right now is facing like this, but in the other frame it's facing more like towards the camera, as you can see. Like, okay, so let's draw some eyes. Okay, so here are the eyes here, and here the eye is just here. You would barely see the other eye. And this is the same applies in the livesey animation, in the Russian livesey, but it's really exaggerated. So you should analyze that animation as well, but it is, you should keep in mind that it has personality, heavy personality, and it's somewhat simplified. His head is completely stationary. It just rotates on its center. Okay, so now we're gonna fill in the in-between. So the first in-between extreme keyframe would be, so okay, here's my onion skin, would be that. Okay, so we're gonna draw this person on its, so these two keyframes, okay, in terms of body height, this would be the lowest point where the head would be. Okay, so let's draw another line for this frame as well. Okay, so in the, this is, okay, ignore the minor height differences, but this would be the lowest point where his head would be. So in the extreme in between, his head would be really high, and that's because one of his legs, doesn't matter which one, would be on this very middle point, okay, and it would be lifting its whole body upward. Okay, by the way, this is not applicable to every walking cycle, but it's one of the basic principles. Okay, so you should, at least try it out. This is a bit too high, so okay, right? Then let's take his head like this. Let's draw it on stationary. Okay, and then like so, an in-between head. Okay, and his eye should be here, and let's draw this as well. So whoop, we take this up. Okay, then there you go. It kind of, it seems like it's kind of elongated, but doesn't matter. So now let's yeah, and the shoulder would also be here, right here in the middle section, but it would be way higher. Okay, so like so. Now let's pay attention to the previous frame, and let's see. Okay, so the back foot is on the front, so this is gonna go like this because it's on this upmost front stage of the walking cycle. So this leg right here would be the back leg, and the front leg would be coming up like, he would pull his knee inside like this, and his foot would follow it up. Okay, so let's pay attention to the foot. So his hip would be around here. It would be actually right behind this one here. So let's not draw it. Let's put it like this. Okay. So, okay. So, and then it would pull this like this. But we should not do this foot like so, because that's not how we walk. The foot would be more like this. This is very apparent on cows, by the way. They do this really exaggerated, pulling the foot inside or outside when they walk. But once again, this is not a 100% rule you should follow, but experiment with it. Anyway, you pull his foot like this. Okay, so now let's move on to his shoulders. Okay, do this, and the other shoulder is also right behind. But okay, so his front shoulder is like this. Once again, on his frontmost position. So he's gonna pull it back, but it should be like, because you pull it back, it should have some rhythm to it. So we don't do it like immediately like this. No. We do it slightly in between. This is too far inside. Okay, like between. Then like this. You can essentially draw a curve like this if you go really cartoonish. But if you draw a little bit more, anatomically accurate, you should, keep in mind that, you have bones and whatnot. So you should at least go like this, okay? For the opposite end, for the back side, you could go like so as well. But once again, if you go really cartoony, you can go even like this, because the 12 principles, one of them was follow-up animation or something like that. I don't know, but since this is the furthermost point, it should show some resistance to the movement. So that's why you would go like this. But once again, if you're concerned about anatomy, you should go like maybe like this. Okay, but the body itself, is gonna hide most of what's gonna happen anyway. So like his torso is gonna be like this, and his arm is gonna be obscured by it. But let's stick to the stickman for now. Okay, so now we have 3 main frames. Okay, and this is really exaggerated, by the way. Like, this goes way too high up and down. So maybe we can kind of slightly let's not, because the ratios would get fucked up. So now what we have to do is complete the cycle. So this is the starting frame, right? So we have drawn 3 frames. By the way, this is not a software tutorial, okay? You can do this with any software that does hand-drawn animation, like Clip Studio, Krita, Toon Boom, TV Paint, whatever comes into mind. Okay, so this is our starting frame. I copy this and I paste it on like right here, okay? So these are the same frames. Starting frame, extreme, other opposite keyframe, and what should come in here is, yes, this keyframe opposite, the opposite of this extreme keyframe. So if you're lazy, you could just copy this drawing and paste it here, and then just, this should be the front, this should be the back, and vice versa. Okay, so this is, oh shoot, front. Okay, this here is front, so here it should be back. Okay, so now this is pretty much a matter of filling up the in-betweens. So let me do that in a minute, and this will be most likely a cut. So yeah, let me fill in these for you. 1 second. So I have done and drawn 3 frames in between every keyframe that I've drawn with you. So Now let's take a look, and I will play it out in the end. So this is one, pay attention to the timeline. This is one keyframe, 1, 2, 3, second keyframe, 1, 2, 3, third, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 5. Okay. So now, one thing I didn't mention is even drawing the in-betweens, you have to consider, the character of, what type of character this is. So that's because pay attention to his front foot now. Okay, so he's pulling it in, pulled it in. Okay, now he's gonna put it in front of himself. Okay, so so look how he puts it. Okay, so even this simple movement here can define a character. So he doesn't lift his knee very much. If he lifts his knee like really high up before putting his foot down, that would mean he's kind of like aggressive or confident, which I believe is the case in Dr. Livesey's animation, the Russian one. I can't remember. I have to look that up. But even the way you put your foot in front of yourself, shows character. So you have to pay attention to that. In this animation, unfortunately, I didn't have any character in mind, so it's kind of like this really weird one. But the end result is, as you can see for yourself, pretty decent. It requires a couple more in-betweens. This is really not smooth animation right now. It at least gives the information that this guy is walking, but not as smooth. But this is pretty much how you do a walking cycle. So to summarize, we have this main frame. Okay, this is the same frame we're gonna use on the last frame as well. That's why it becomes a cycle. So then we need this is the lowest point of the character's head. Okay, then we need the highest point, which would be this one. Okay, you see, this is too much height, by the way. Like, unless you're doing something really exaggerated, this is not necessary. Then we do the same keyframes, but with the opposite arms and legs, in front and in the back. Okay, so like this. See, this, then this, and then this. Then the same for the height, the highermost point, like here. Okay, then you draw the in-betweens, but don't just draw the in-betweens blindly. Try to show character. Like I said, the way you put his foot in front of himself, and the way he sways his arms. You can also put his arms, which would be way easier, into his pockets, and he would walk like that. Sway his shoulders way more, because his hands are in his pockets. Or you can, put his hands behind his back, and he's kind of like crunched up. There are tons and tons of variations you can do, which would, imply the character's personality. So experiment. This is, like I said, a guideline, not a tutorial, but I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, or if you have any suggestions as to what you would like to see as a next tutorial, let me know down in the comments. I'll try to make these tutorials or guides on a regular basis, but I cannot give any promises. My hands are really full around these times. Anyway, have a good one, everyone. I hope this was helpful. Cheers.